Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us again here on Fearless Females. So today we're talking with Rebecca Callahan, and I just recently met Rebecca, but I've spoken with her like several times since then, and I just love her mission. And you can see it like shining out of her. It just comes out in everything she says and does. Her mission is installing confidence earlier in women. She said that she spent probably most of her 20s and 30s just kind of figuring it out. And if you think back, probably a lot of us did that exact same thing where we make mistakes, we change things just a little bit, we get better, and we're just trying to figure it out. And we always have that little voice that's like, hey, you're not good enough. That it's imposter syndrome. I've heard it from just about everyone I've interviewed that, they didn't feel ready. Sometimes they stayed quiet. Sometimes they stayed small, but they just had a hard time learning that they were already there. They were already good enough, smart enough, ready enough to speak out. And Rebecca has kind of dedicated this back half of her career to helping women solve that problem of confidence. She calls it the confidence gap. And she focuses on solving it sooner before they have to take decades just figuring it out. And I love that because imagine what life would have been like if you could have silenced that voice that told you to be quiet or you weren't good enough or you weren't ready enough earlier and come out with some of that confidence earlier in your career. And that doesn't mean like you don't listen to good advice or you don't take that other people's opinions into account. It just means that you know that you deserve your seat at the table just a little bit earlier. And I love that that's Rebecca's mission. I fully support that mission and hope that she is so successful in it because imagine having, hundreds of women know that their voice counts just a little bit earlier on in their life. If you hear something in this episode that makes you think, oh gosh, I know someone who could really use this information, or I know somebody who would really I feel like they would really get something out of this, share that conversation with them. It helps because these are amazing, wonderful women and they just have really good ideas. Some things you don't think of yourself, some things you have, but you just need somebody else to tell you. So share it with those who need it. Pass it on. Let's get started with Rebecca.
Good morning, Fearless Females. So today we have Rebecca Callahan with us. She is the founder of Summer Day. And I've had a couple of opportunities just to chat with Rebecca. I really think this is going to be a good, insightful show where she helps us out with a lot of different ideas. So thank you so much for doing this, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat.
Yeah. So my first question is always my favorite. I'm a reader. I love reading. My book list is too long to get through this year and probably verging on into next year by this point. And I still keep asking, what is your favorite book?
So I'm the same way. My list is ridiculous. I don't know that I'm going to have enough time in my life to read all of the books, but so that's actually a hard question. I've actually been thinking about that. I want to say that my favorite book of all times is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And I probably read it about once every 10, 15 years because it's like this big and it takes forever to get through. And every time I read it or reread it, I learn something new.
So what speaks to you in that book? Like why do you like it so much?
Honestly, it was probably the first book that I read that was there is a female antagonist and she was a master of industry. Dagny Taggart was the original fearless female, to be honest.
Yeah. And as we're going through Women's History Month, to have a great female leader in literature or business or pretty much anywhere is kind of exciting. It does, that speaks to me. So I love that.
Well, right. And it's also, Ayn Rand lived in Russia and she moved to the US. And so she lived without capitalism for so long in her life. And when she like, that's what Atlas Shrugged and, oh gosh, what's the other one that she wrote? Fountainhead are her two big ones. And it's just very much about how good capitalism is. And of course, you can go too far on capitalism, but the way that she approached it, just competition is good and all of those different things. It was just, that's really from a corporate perspective, that's in my mind, that's how corporate should be run. And then to have it from a woman's perspective is just, icing on the top.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have read both of hers, but I'll have to go back. I'll have to put them on my list and read them again. Because it's been a while. It has been.
Yeah.
So tell me just a little bit about your journey, Rebecca. Where did you get started? Did you always know what you wanted to do? How did you flow through that journey? And what are you doing now?
Yeah. So, no, I did not always know what I wanted to do. I probably don't know what I want to do right now. So the flow is definitely something that I have gone with most of my career, but I was, oh gosh, I gotta tell you, I used to say that I was 20 plus years in corporate. And when I actually looked at the numbers, it's more like 30 years. So I'm almost 30 years in corporate. I did most of my career in travel and hospitality. And I had a lot of different jobs and different roles, especially as I, kept getting promoted and getting on leadership teams and all of those different things. So I dabbled in marketing and account management and operations and process improvement and sales op. I kind of touched a whole lot of different things for a lot of different industries. But the through line of my career has always been kind of post-sales account management. So once somebody comes in the door, how do we keep them and how do we grow them? So that's really been my focus, regardless of what my actual role and title was. That's really been my focus, is kind of building those relationships ongoing. About 5 years ago, I did a passion pivot from travel and hospitality into leadership development. I actually started working for a company that ran women's leadership development programs and workshops. And I built an alumni community for them for the same reason, to keep those women that have gone through the workshops close and keep them engaged and learning. And I did a lot of networking and a lot of continuing education for them. Loved it. So when I decided it was time to go off on my own, which was about 2 years ago, it was really very easy from a go with the flow perspective to go into coaching. And so I am a certified coach now. I've been a certified coach for a couple years. I focus almost entirely on early and mid-career women. And the big thing that I'm doing right now is I'm building and running peer advisory boards for early and mid-career women. It's this beautiful mix of the community building that I love to do and the coaching, and all in service of those next generation of leaders that are going to coming up behind us.
Yeah, we had a chance to just chat about this, a couple weeks ago, and I loved your emphasis on early career and mid-career, but I was really loving the early career women, because it kind of, they're enthusiastic, they're gung-ho, they are so full of energy, but they might not have the experience that they're going to have later on in their career. And I love that you're helping and mentoring them through those early stages. Not a lot of people focus on that stage, and I love that you do.
There's a big gap. I mean, when you graduate from college, there's a lot of support, alumni networks and in college career services and all of that. And then when you get to like VP level, there's a lot of stuff. There's, chief and pavilion and Vista. I mean, there's so many opportunities once you get to that, but there's not a lot in the middle. And what I've come to realize working with clients and talking to women at that stage is honestly, it comes down to confidence. And younger women don't necessarily have a whole lot of confidence in themselves, in their voice, in what they want to do, in the ability to make mistakes, and the ability to stand up for themselves, to ask for what they want, to advocate. And I mean, I didn't. I don't know if you did, but I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, even into my 40s, there's no way.
Yeah.
I have it now, but it took me almost 30 years to get there. And the underlying root of everything that I'm doing right now is, how do I help women instill that confidence in themselves and each other earlier? Because if you can do it earlier, your career, your life, how you show up, everything is going to benefit from that. So I love working with early career women and mid-career women because of that, because there's so much opportunity.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of places you can go from there. And I love I was telling a guest earlier today, I love the enthusiasm that they come with, like their ability to question, and I do think it gets questioned sometimes in those early stages of their career. And I wish it didn't. Like, I wish that hopefully that's what you're doing, is helping it not to get questioned, because I think that they're so engaged. They're so ready to be a part of the companies and just push them forward.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I mean, just as an example, and this was, oh my gosh, I guess at this point it was probably 10 years ago. I had a woman that was working for me that I was trying to promote from a hourly to salary. And in my head, she initially said no when I tried to.
So, Rebecca, if you can kind of look back over your journey and your life, like, is there an investment that you've made in yourself, monetarily or time or education? I don't care how you answer it, but something that you can just look back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. My life just wouldn't be the same today without it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have 3.
Okay.
I may. So and it all has to do with education, right? So the first one is when I was in my late 20s, I went back and got my MBA. I also managed to meet my husband there. That was not why I went there, but it just was like that added bonus. But the reason why I went wasn't because I wanted to do one of the traditional MBA career paths. I didn't want to do finance. I didn't want to do investment banking. I didn't want to do consulting, and I didn't want to do brand management. I wanted a solid foundational understanding of business. And that was the reason why I went. So that was the most transformational 2 years of my life. Shout out Ross at University of Michigan. Anybody wants to talk about that, I could talk about it forever. So that was one. The next one was when I joined Chief, when I became a VP, and I joined Chief because that community of women in the same space that I was in was the first time that I had access to that. And it actually changed the entire trajectory of what I wanted to do professionally into community building and coaching and all of that. So that community was a huge investment. And then the last one was getting my coaching certification, because when I first went back to get my certification, it wasn't because I was planning on being a full-time coach. I actually wanted to go through the training so that I could learn to be a better leader. I could, show up for my team better. And so the tools that it taught me on how to be a better manager and better leader were also changed how I showed up.
So I love what you were talking about there when you talked about like learning, just doing something, not because you thought it was going to like get you a promotion or something like that, but just because you wanted to know more about it. You thought it would make you better at what you were doing. And I love that. I do that a little bit with like AI. I feel like it's not what I do in my day to day, but it's going to make me better at what I do. So that skill building, and I kind of want to learn things. I kind of want to know things, right?
Yeah. I mean, I never thought about it that way. Just, I want to do this so that I can be better or get better. But that's actually true. I mean, I've even thought about going and getting like a certification in nutrition because I find it interesting and I want to learn. But I guess because I've done those things, opportunities have presented themselves afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's because like I find that if I'm more interested in an area, like I love coming up with better operations or digging into a financial concept that's complex or just learning financial things, like because I'm interested in it, maybe if that brings these opportunities, if I learn more about it, it exponentially kind of makes more opportunities for me in that area. Like it wasn't what I tried doing in the first place, but maybe that's just the way it happens.
Yeah. I mean, your first question or your second question about, did you just go with the flow? The reality is that I really did. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, my undergrad was in psychology and English, and I was in I thought I was going to go and work in a drug rehab, but I didn't,
Yeah.
I
That's
just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. What about some really bad advice, Rebecca? Did anyone ever give you some really bad, the worst advice you can think of? And did you take it or did you not?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've gotten bad advice professionally and personally. Which would you prefer?
I'm just interested in the question. You tell me.
Okay, well, let's keep it on the professional side. I think probably the worst advice that I got, and this was, back in the day when we were still wearing pantyhose and padded shoulders. And, the advice that I got was never tell your company or never allow your current company to know that you are thinking about leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea was you never wanted to put your job at risk. And if you expressed any sort of frustration, boredom, dissatisfaction, then they were going to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
That was the premise. And yes, I took it. For years, I was a job jumper because I would be ready for a promotion and I would not get it, or I would be bored, or I would, any of those different things. And instead of trying to work with my current company to see if there was something that I could do internally, I would leave. And it always came as a surprise. And they were always upset that I was leaving. And they always said, I wish you had told me. We could have fixed this. One of my first jobs was with a company that actually was known for retaining their employees. I mean, there's employees that had been there for 20 years, 30 years. And it was a company that I really enjoyed. I was just bored in my job. And I had a VP, so 2 steps above me, so my boss's boss. After I had given notice, he pulled me into his office. I didn't even know that he knew who I was. And he pulled me into his office and he kind of said, well, why are you leaving? What did we do? And I was like, oh, no, you guys are fine. I was just bored. So I went and got a new job. And he said, I really wish you had told me. I had big plans for you, but, best of luck. And I was in my 20s, 50 now. I still think about that. And I still think about what if I had said something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting because you do hear that advice. And my son actually didn't take that advice. He talked to the company that he was with and told them that he needed more of a role, a bigger job. They weren't able to provide that for him there, but he left them on a really good terms and with a lot of network in place and really good feelings and stuff like that. And I thought I had been taught like like don't let anyone know you're leaving.
Yeah.
And it would be so interesting because as now being in the opposite position, I always tell my people, I'm like, let me know. Like, if you're unhappy, like, let me know because I want to make sure that if there is a way that if there truly is nothing I can do, I'm going to help you get where you need to go. Yeah.
So I love that you said that because you're exactly right. Listen, companies can't always fix stuff. But if you're in a good company, and when I say a good company, that one that values their employees and really takes the time to invest in their employees, chances are they're going to try to keep you. They may not be able to, but you'll know. So there was a time later on in my career, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I actually went to my boss and I I did it wrong. I just complained. What I should have done was go to her and say, hey, here are my challenges. This is how I think we could resolve them. So I'm not just a complainer. Now I'm a problem solver. I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. You learn every time, right? Yeah. But, she kind of said, the job's the job. There's nothing I can do. And I said, okay, now I know. And now I feel really good about closing this door and going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And when I left, again, like your comment about your son, that is one thing that I tell everyone is you never leave on bad terms. No matter how good or bad the experience is that you are leaving, the world's pretty small. You want to keep your nose clean and you want to make sure that you leave on good terms because you never know when that person is going to come back into your life.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And if that is something that you can, if you have any control over, absolutely, I think you should. Yeah, I love that. What about, I'm not going to say regrets, but I'm going to say a do-over. What about a do-over? Like, is there if you kind of look back over your journey, is there a place where you're like, oh my gosh, I know so much better now. If I could go back and do that again, I know exactly how I'd do it.
I mean, over and over and over again. Yeah. Right? But I think probably the one that always comes to mind is the one that I already referenced with this VP that brought me in. I wish I had done that differently because I actually think I could have been with that company for a long time. So yeah, that's the do-over is giving that company an opportunity to fix a situation. Who knows? I may have left in 6 months anyway, but yeah, that's my do-over.
Yeah, that's what and it is so interesting after you have those years of experience under your belt, you look back and you're like, man, I really wish I had known then what I know now.
Totally.
And you can't ever really, I mean, it all brings you experience, but sometimes maybe you could help somebody else,
Which is why I do what I do now. So hopefully other people can learn from my mistakes. They're going to make their own, but they don't have to remake mine.
Yeah.
They can make different ones. That's great.
I know. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, you've got lots of ways to screw up. Just don't make my same screw ups.
Exactly.
Like, do something new and unique.
Exactly.
If you could go back and high five yourself for a really great past financial decision, what would that be?
I love this question because as I think we've talked about, my husband's a financial advisor, kind of like you. And so he makes we talk about things always. We always talk about things. He never does anything without me knowing about it, except for one time. It was during the pandemic. It was March of 2020. And the stock market was in a nosedive, absolute nosedive. On top of that, I was working for a travel market research company in the travel industry. So not only was market research going to be the first line item to get slashed from everybody's P&L, but also in the travel industry, nobody was traveling.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed. And so my husband always says that my company was the tip of the spear during the pandemic. Even with all of this stuff happening, I walked into my husband. Well, he was working from home at the time. I walked into where he was working and I said, I don't know if my company is going to be around at the end of the year. I don't know that I'm going to have a job, but I think we need to invest in the stock market. And he paused and I got his full attention. He looked away from his desk and he said, wait, are you serious? I said, you always tell me buy when it's low. And he's like, yeah, but you're not sure about your job. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to miss out on this. And we did. And we literally bought at the bottom. It could have been the day of the bottom in March of 2020. And it's gone up from there.
That is great timing, isn't it?
I may have missed it by a day or two, but pretty much we were down there. It was troughing. So yeah, that was the best financial decision that I've ever made.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And that's a hard one to make too, because the market was really crazy during that time and everyone felt a little bit like this was a once in a lifetime event. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
hopefully we don't have the opportunity to make that decision again because I
Yeah.
don't want another worldwide pandemic.
No, I don't either. And listen, in 2008, when we had that other big drop, we had a newborn and a 1-year-old, and we just didn't have the finances to really invest like that. So when this came around, I was like, I don't want to miss this. We missed the last one. Like, let's do this. And, the emotions were all over the place and it was scary, but it was like, no, this is the right time to do this. So we took the risk. It paid off.
What scared you the most when you started on your career? Was there anything that was really scary, and does it still scare you today, or did you learn how to deal with it?
I think showing up as who I really am was probably the scariest thing. I don't know if you know anything about Enneagram, but I'm a type 8, which are pretty intense. It's pretty intense energy. And so I have often been told I'm too much, like, cool it down, cool your jets, don't talk as much, don't be as out there as you are. And so I learned to play the game over time, and I learned to kind of finesse that. But when I first started, it was scary to show up as my full self because I was overwhelming to people. Now, again, I've matured and I've finessed it. So no, it doesn't scare me anymore. And I feel really good about stepping into that power. But when I was younger, it was hard.
How did you finesse it as a one who has also been called too much? I'm very interested in the answer to this question.
Okay, so I have a great example because this has stayed with me for a long time. So I got feedback from a manager one time. He said, listen, Rebecca, you're probably right. And we're probably going to do what you think we need to do. But you got to let people finish their sentences. And he was a good friend. He was a good manager. And so that was hard to hear. But when I thought about it more, that's the finessing that I'm talking about. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right and that we're going to go my direction. But the finessing is, okay, take a breath and listen to other people, hear what they have to say, even listen, they may have a really good idea that's going to make your idea better. And so you make sure that you incorporate more people and you just make sure that they're heard, even if you decide not to do what they want you to do or what they think you should do. People want to be heard and acknowledged and valued. And so that's an example of the way that I've finessed it. It was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. It is hard to kind of show up and be like, I like finance to an unhealthy degree. Like, I know it. I love everything about it. And I can sometimes be a little bit enthusiastic. And so you do have to kind of tone it down. Not everybody loves it the way I do. Yeah. Not everyone gets into it. And so you do have to kind of tone it down, but you have to do it in an authentic way. I think a way that where you still show up and that excitement and energy is still there, but that, I like the way that you put that, but other people can show up too and can be heard and seen in those areas.
Well, and it's a combination of experience and confidence, it takes time and practice. It's not a muscle, I think, that people come by naturally. You have to work at it.
So do you teach that? Like, do you teach people how to do that?
I try to.
I love that.
I think it's called the Center for Creative Leadership has a model called the 70-20-10 model, which says new skills, especially leadership skills, are built 70% by doing, 20% by the people around you, and then 10% by actual training. So all of those leadership development workshops and trainings and all of that stuff, that's only 10% of it. 70% is doing, and 20% is who you surround yourself with. So mentors, sponsors, coaches, therapists, friends and family, peer advisory groups, all of those different things. That's going to get you, did I do that math right? Yeah, that'll get you 90% of the way. But you've got to go and make the mistakes, and you've got to go and try things and risk and push your growth edge as much as you can, as much as you're comfortable with. So you've got to go through it and make the mistakes, but you've got to be confident enough to know that you can make a mistake and you're going to be okay. So I try to teach people, I try to help women with that. It's not going to come from me, though. It's going to come from them.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that interesting, like the idea of practicing. And it seems like structured practice. Like, like you can go try it at work and then come back and tell me how it did. And then we can iterate, right? And we'll try it again in just a slightly different way or tweaking it just a little bit, but it's like structured practice.
So that's exactly right. And that's something that when I have one-on-one clients, I do a lot of is role playing. So, and that's something that I'm going to be doing with the peer advisory groups, that they're going to role play with each other, not me. It's going to be them helping each other. But, as an example, I had a client who, she was an early first-time manager, and she had to have a tough conversation. She had to put this woman on a performance improvement plan, one of her team. And she was really uncomfortable with it. And so we role played, and I was sitting here with my arms crossed and really snotty. I was like really upset. I approached it in different ways so that she could have an opportunity to practice in a safe space, so that when she actually went and had the conversation, it actually went really well. Was it a good conversation? No, but it was an important one. And she had enough practice that she felt more confident in herself to be able to go and do that.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea. That's really interesting. And probably where like I get the most value when I was in my MBA program, there was a lot of structured practice, and it was like, I call it picking the brain. Like you go and you say, okay, how did you do this? And like, well, what would you do if they said this? Well, what would you do if they said this? That kind of a role play. Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. What about unique challenges through your career because you were a woman? Did you have any of those?
Yes, of course. I never worked in a male-dominated industry. So I always mostly worked with other women. I had a lot of male bosses, and certainly in the C-suite, most of them were male. Unique challenges? I had the same challenges that every other mom has. A slightly unique one, I have a kiddo who, when he was 3, he was diagnosed with some special needs. And so that kind of derailed any sort of direct career trajectory for me, because he needed more support. And so I adjusted my career accordingly, got him the support that he needed. And kid's a freshman at Cal Poly now, so he's doing just fine. But a lot of that was because we made that investment in him when he was younger, and we got him what he needed early on, and we paid attention to what he needed. But above and beyond that, it was the same stuff that all women, young moms, we all go through. How do you balance that mom guilt with, I enjoy my career. I enjoy doing this work, but I really love my kids. And then how do I balance that with a husband who also has a job and a career? And, you've got these little ones that need help, and then they grow, and then they need different help. So,
well, any magic fixes for that, or ways that you learn to deal with it? Because you're right. That is a problem that we all go through. It's something that we all face.
Magic fixes? No. Identifying what your priorities are and what your values are and your non-negotiables, super helpful. I literally just wrote a LinkedIn post on that. There was a time in my career that I left a higher paying, higher title, like fancier title role, to go back to an old company with a lower title and a lower salary, because that job allowed me to work from home and gave me that work-life balance that I so craved. I made the money up in like a year, so that wasn't even a big deal. But knowing that commuting into the office and working long hours in an office, that I wasn't able to do the things that I usually did at home, that was a non-negotiable for me. And so I adjusted for that. So if I had been true to that my whole career, I think I would have made clearer decisions and not made as many mistakes. So back to your question, what are your non-negotiables? What are your values and what are your priorities? And then stick with them until they change.
Maybe you better write them down somewhere, because I always forget in the moment when there's shiny things around. I'm like, yeah, that was a non-negotiable, but this looks really shiny right now.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the book Traction. That's another really good one, especially for entrepreneurs. But the idea of you can only have a certain number of priorities at any one time. So if you're going to change for some other shiny new penny, something's got to give, right? You can't just add more on. So.
No, because then you end up with no sleep and no balance and crying in the corner, right? Yeah, it's just not a good thing.
Exactly. I have a friend who wrote a blog post years ago that I still love referencing. She talked about balance being a verb instead of finding balance, doing balance. So it's a constant active approach to you're never going to get this. It's always going to be somewhere along here with it, and it could be like over here too. So if you can, again, focus on your non-negotiables and your values and your priorities, and then try to keep things as much in balance by giving and taking as you need. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, that should be just the answer. It's hard. It is hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, but I think we do find our own. I think we find our own rhythm and cadence, and there have been times when I've pulled back on, full throttle on career because I did have a lot of responsibilities on the home front. And there were other times where my responsibilities lessened and I could give more to that area of my life.
Yeah.
I think that something I've learned kind of along the path is just you got to stop beating yourself up for it. Like, you got to stop that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If I could wave a magic wand and just erase mom guilt from every woman on the face of this earth, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, what would be possible?
I know. I think the world would be changed. For
Right?
sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you got to give yourself grace. I agree.
Rebecca, what is the thing you are most proud of?
My kids. I know that probably every mom says that, but like, my kids are awesome. They are just good human beings and I like them. And we spent a lot of time focusing on them. I mean, we both had our careers, but family first. So I'm pretty proud of them.
That's really neat. That's great. I know. I'm proud of, I'm proud of some of the things that they do. And other things I'm like, oh, I did not set a very good example there.
I mean, listen, I'm pretty excited about this peer advisory board that I'm building. But I don't know that I can say that I'm proud of it yet because it's still really early. But ask me in a year, I'd like to be able to say, I am so proud of this. Look at what we've accomplished together. Look at what these women have been doing since we started. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, Rebecca, any advice for a young lady who's kind of just starting down this path that you're already so successful at to help her be as incredible as you?
I love this question. I mean, a lot of advice, but I think the foundational one is don't be afraid to ask for help. I never did until recently. And the whole reason why I do what I do now is to help those that are coming up behind me. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's actually a huge strength. And when I say help, I'm talking about, that could be friends and family, that could be finding a mentor, that could be finding a coach, finding a therapist, reading a book on something that you need help with, listening to podcasts, any of those things. But reach out and you'd be amazed at how many doors open.
And people are so willing to, I feel like, to share their experience and just help another person along their path.
I love that. I love that advice.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for hanging in. I know my listeners hopefully won't know this, but we had a few glitches along the podcast path today. So thank you for hanging in and sharing your story. If I have a young lady who wants to ask some questions, how does she get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's always a good one. I have a website. It's summerday-llc.com. And there's a form that you can fill out in there. But yeah, LinkedIn or my website would be the best ones.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for helping out and just for sharing your story and sharing your experience and some really good ideas too. Thank you.
This was really fun. Thank you, Lorie.